Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show on WABC and our affiliates throughout the country. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And so now I am very pleased to have two really good friends, but also two of the smartest people I know about politics. So we're going to talk a little bit about politics and policy now with Tom DelBaccaro. And Tom was the head of the Republican Party in California for many years. Talk about the patron saint of lost causes. And he also is the author of a great, great book that I think is just fantastic called The Lessons of the American Civilization. So, Tom, thanks for joining. And John McLaughlin, who is one of the 2 or 3 best pollsters in the United States. I know that because Donald Trump says he is. And when Donald Trump says you're one of the best, you are. And you've done a lot of polling about Donald Trump and for Donald Trump. So both of you, thank you for joining. We're going to have kind of an extended session with these guys because I just want to plow into their wisdom. Tom DelBaccaro, I want to start with you. You know, you wrote the book, The Lessons of American Civilization, and we are celebrating Memorial Day weekend this weekend. And so I wonder if you have anything to say about, you know, the millions of people who've given their life for our country and what that has meant for the American civilization.
Well, America was an adopted place. And what I mean by that is people came here willingly and wanted to search for opportunity and a new life and create their own life. And then if you look at the volunteer forces we've had over the year, in addition to the greatest generation and those who fought in the Civil War, they fought for a higher purpose. They didn't fight to acquire land per se or create an empire, but to establish this freedom that was an example to the world. I mean, George Washington said outright that he wanted the country to be an example to the world. And so that is the American founding. And on a day like today, right, and also in the fall on Veterans Day, remembering those who wanted to preserve freedom, which is the very essence of the American experiment, is just it's a wonderful thing for us to do because, as you know, freedom isn't free.
It's so very well put. I was saying earlier on the show that my grandfather fought in World War I. My 2 uncles and my father fought in World War II. None of them died, thank God, but my 2 uncles were in German prisoner of war camps, so they certainly gave a lot for this country. John, before we get into politics, any thoughts about Memorial Day?
I watched President Trump's speech at West Point earlier today, and that was great because I had an Uncle Dave who we laid to rest a year ago. He was class of 55 West Point. My cousin Cecilia went there, and she fought in the first Gulf War with her brother. But my dad I was born in Fort Dix because my dad was in the 69th. His Uncle Bill was the colonel.
Wow.
My Uncle Frank was in the 69th in New York. That's an Irish regiment that goes back to the Civil War. And, fortunately, I didn't have to serve, but there's a lot of family. In fact, I got a son-in-law getting ready to serve in the National Guard where he'll be deployed. So, but you remember all these people that lost people, the Gold Star mothers, the Gold Star families, and Trump has never forgotten them. I mean, President Trump is, he's like you can tell he doesn't want to send people into battle unless he has to. He doesn't want to have a war unless he has to. He's trying to negotiate with Iran right now. He's trying to end the Ukraine-Russian war. He's trying to, get some semblance of peace in Gaza. And that's what you have to do. The tough part about the military is we have people that are ready to sacrifice to keep us at peace. And, Memorial Day, you remember those people that really gave the ultimate sacrifice. And that's
so, John, you're the
tough.
pollster. You have your finger on the pulse of the American people. One of the things that's bothered me is some of the folks on the left, and not all, but many of the people on the left they don't really recognize America as a kind of special place. And there's kind of, how should I say this, a lack of patriotism of some on the left. Do you think that this is a patriotic country, John, and based on your surveys of the American people?
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, and that was a big factor for Donald Trump. I mean, his personal patriotism. He truly believes America is an exceptional country. And Ronald Reagan before him, and George W. Bush, and the Democrats. You kind of wonder about. You can see their party's in decline and they're in disarray right now because they whatever's going on right now. They need to join us in that kind of sense of patriotism, and I think a lot of them do. But it shouldn't be a question. It shouldn't be something where they're attacking Trump on things that he's doing when we need to show like a united front. And he's right now when you look at what happened in Washington with those two young people that were gunned down by a terrorist. I mean, that was on American soil. I mean, those of us who remember 9/11, America's got to come together, and we got to show the world that we're strong and we want to stay at peace.
Well put. And of course, it was Nathan Hale who was famous for saying that I regret that I have but one life to give for my country. Tom, just one last issue on this whole theme of Memorial Day. One of my concerns is that Americans' kids are not learning this stuff that we've been talking about in school. That they've just almost taken civics out of the schools. And, maybe what every kid has to do is read your book, which is such a great remembrance about the greatness of America.
That would be very nice. By the way, I went to Nathan Hale School in Long Island, right near.
No way! Did you really?
Right near where he was hung. Yes. So I went. That was my kindergarten. It is true. The great historian Will Durant talked about that if a civilization doesn't pass on its traditions, its values, and the rest, if that doesn't occur for a generation or two, the civilization could be lost. And there's little question now and I saw this when my daughter was in school, that they're not teaching American history. They don't teach America's role in world history. I mean, I think everybody on the left would be shocked to find out that Vietnam, back in when it did its constitution, referenced the American Declaration of Independence. There was only 6 working democracies prior to World War II in America before America entered, and shortly it became 80, and now it's in the 120s. So America's had an enormous impact on freedom, which is why Lincoln talked about last best hope. But if you ask a child today about George Washington, the only thing he could say is that he was a slaveholder, and not putting things in context is a great disservice to the country and undermines it.
It is. It was Ronald Reagan who, you've been quoting Washington, and of course he was our greatest president. But it was Ronald Reagan who said it was divine providence that put America here as a beacon of freedom for the rest of the world, and I believe that to be true. John, again, I want to go back to you because I'm enjoying this conversation, and I think our audience is too. When I was in school, I grew up I was born in 1960, so the 60s and 70s. They taught us U.S. history. When my kids were in school, they're teaching them social studies. I don't even know what social studies is, John.
Well, Well, yeah, I mean, I'm older than you, so it's like a little older than you. But we had social studies, but there were certain values you were taught.
Yeah.
And the thing that upsets you right now is when they're not taught about 9/11. How could you not teach about who attacked us and why it happened and what we need to do to make sure that doesn't happen again? And there's it's just fundamental. What's amazing is when you think about how after Donald Trump got elected again in November, all of a sudden we have a surge of military enlistments. We have an all-volunteer military, and they've got a surge of this. So it's out there in the heartland of America. People want to feel proud about our country. They want to feel about our shared values for, the freedoms we enjoy, and they want to make sure that we're safe from our enemies. And there's lots of young men and women who are willing to sacrifice, but they want to know that the leader is going to back them up, and that you won't have something where you're taking American lives and putting them at risk. Like the day Donald Trump went ahead in the polls against Joe Biden was in September of 2021. After inflation got triggered by the Inflation Reduction Act, plus he surrendered Afghanistan. Because the one thing an American president is not supposed to do is to surrender to terrorists. And that caused, 13 brave American men and women died that day. Yeah. And hundreds of others that had worked with us in Afghanistan. So, we got to remember that on days like today.
Good point. So speaking of the greatness of America, one of the things that makes America great, John, is our tax policy. We've always believed in limited government and hopefully low taxes. Donald Trump, of course, in 2017 gave us what I think was a great tax bill that Larry Kudlow and Steve Forbes and I and others helped him write. And how big was it? We're going to have to take a break in a minute, but before we get to that break, how significant is what happened in the House, John? And is this something the American people support?
Oh, absolutely, they support it. We took a survey in February for the Chamber of Commerce where they support making the Trump tax cuts permanent, 64-20. But what's more important, we just
wait. Hold on. So give that number again, because this is important. So it's by a 3-to-1 margin. People support
64-20, but only 49. But by the way, only 51% were aware that the Trump tax cuts are going to expire, and we will have the largest tax increase in the history of the country. And we saw that in a poll we just did last week for the Club for Growth in 35 battleground congressional districts. 43% of the voters are not aware that if we don't pass this legislation, you will have the largest tax increase in the history of the country, $4.5 trillion. The average American, I've seen it in your newsletter, the average American will be paying over, $2,000? And but people aren't aware of that. And when they're told about that, they support stopping the tax increases 76-12. Every Democrat has voted for those tax increases right now. Amazing. And we're not going after them. We need to play offense on them. And that's how you win in the Senate.
All right. Hold that thought, John McLaughlin. That's John McLaughlin, the great pollster, and Tom DelBaccaro. By the way, is it okay if I hold you guys over for one more? Can you stick with us for one more?
Yes.
Oh, Tom, Absolutely. Are you good? Okay. We're going to take a quick break. I'm talking to Tom DelBaccaro, who is one of the top political minds in the country, and John McLaughlin, one of the top pollsters in the country. And we'll get right back talking about what is in the Trump tax cut.
Talk Radio 77 WABC.
The new McCrispy Strip is here. Dip approved by ketchup, tangy barbecue, honey mustard, Sprite, McFlurry, Big Mac sauce, double dipped in buffalo and ranch, more ranch, and creamy chili McCrispy Strip Dip. Now at McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Your snacking routine can get a little dull. Time for an Oikos remix. Like a crunchy storm of sea salt praline pretzels, dark chocolate, and butter toffee, showering down into a smooth, creamy yogurt. Enjoy 3 Oikos Remix varieties with epic mix-ins and 11 grams of complete protein per 4.5-ounce serving. See remixyogurt.com.
So good, so good, so good.
Get ready, cause Clear the Rack is on at your Nordstrom Rack store. Now through Monday, find incredible deals on Wear Now styles. On sale for even less at Nordstrom Rack. Take an extra 25% off red tag clearance throughout the store from brands like Free People, Steve Madden, Vince, and more. All sales final. The best stuff goes fast. So shop this sale at Nordstrom Rack today. Please see NordstromRack.com or ask a store associate for details.
We're back, folks. This is the More Money Show on WABC. We talk about money. We talk about politics. We talk about how you can make more money. And we're having a great conversation with two of my good friends, John McLaughlin, one of the top pollsters in the country, and Tom DelBaccaro, who was the head of the Republican Party in California for many years. I hope he runs for office again. I know you didn't you run against Kamala?
Kamala. I ran against Kamala Harris. I tried to warn you people.
So we are celebrating today, by the way, Nathan Hale, who is, of course, the great patriot who said, and I will quote, "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country." What a patriotic statement that was. And is it really true, Tom, that you went to Nathan Hale Junior High?
No, I'm telling you, it was in Huntington, Hale Site, New York. It's called Hale Site. And I went and visited it, I think, a year ago, but it was closed down, and now it's some sort of apartment or condo building. I was greatly disappointed, but it's it's in Hale Site, New York. But let's get to this tax bill.
Well, we need to build a big statue for Nathan Hale. I mean, he was a great, great American. Okay, so let's talk some some economics now. So, Tom, you wrote me a note the other day. You were angry about something, deservedly so. You said you're sick and tired of people saying we have to pay for the tax cuts. What did you mean by that?
Well, yes, I saw the head of OMB talk about how the tax cuts will cost government money.
Right.
And it's just a pernicious thing. I wrote about it in Substack. It is not the government's money. It's our money. And whenever we're taxed, it costs us. The thief is never taxed when it takes your money, and the government isn't taxed. And so, but what's important here is the psychology of that statement that the left uses all the time, that the tax cut is costing government. What does it mean by that? They want you to have a working assumption that this belongs to government. And this isn't actually very new. You know where it started? The first president to say that we can't afford the tax cut was Eisenhower when the top rate was at 92%.
Right.
He said we can now afford this reduction. No. And what's important here, and what's important about this bill, we, as the great Scott Besson says, and I think he'll be the best public servant in the last 50 years, what he said was we need to privatize the economy. And the only way you can do that is limit the government burden, which this tax bill will do. It will limit the percentage taken away from people so that the private sector can thrive. Why is that necessary? Because the larger the private sector, the more freedom. The smaller the private sector, the more you're dependent on government, the lower the standard of living, and the less freedom you have.
Yeah, well, look, we know that from history. I mean, as Larry Kudlow has pointed out in his great book, JFK and the Reagan Revolution, every time we've cut tax rates in this country, that was true in the 1920s under Calvin Coolidge, true in the 60s under JFK, true in the 80s under Reagan, and actually true in 2017 under Donald J. Trump. So my question for you, John McLaughlin, do the American people understand that? Do they instinctively understand that lowering taxes is good for the economy?
Yes, we're all supply siders now because
I love it.
No, because back in 2016 in the spring, Trump announced in 2015 and he was saying he was going to run on trade and immigration. And during the primary, he said to me, do you think we need a tax cut? And I said, yes, because jobs, we got to create jobs at the time, jobs. And I said, the best way to create jobs is to cut taxes. And he says, where do I get one? I said, call Larry Kudlow and Steve Forbes and Steve Moore. They did it for Pataki and Giuliani and Christy Todd Whitman. And you guys heard a great tax cut where we created millions of jobs. It was a signature accomplishment in his first administration before COVID hit. And then this time around, the Trump 2.0, I mean, people, when you ask them if they're in favor of no tax on tips, it's like 71 to 21. They support it.
By the way, can I just interrupt you for 1 second on that, John? Because I said this earlier on the show, but I want to repeat it because you brought it up. And this was kind of a vote in the Senate that didn't get much publicity. It was an amendment on one of the bills to have no tax on tips. And did you know, John, that passed unanimously? I remember when Trump first started talking about this, the Democrats laughed at him and said, this is a crazy idea. This could never work. And every Democrat voted for no tax on tips.
No, because they're getting their polls back. And it was
right.
Jackie Rosen from Nevada proposed that, who's a Democrat, because she knows that the workers in Nevada would, she just got reelected barely, but she's doing inoculation. By the way, if we play offense against the Democrats in the Senate, because the no tax on overtime, they support that 66 to 25. And you want to talk about savings. If in our last national poll, if you stop illegal immigrants from getting Medicaid, it's supported by 2/3 of Americans, 64-25. And if you require workfare for able-bodied adults to get Medicaid, they support that 65-23.
Wow.
That would save hundreds of billions of dollars. Right.
So this is for something that was a question I wanted to ask you, John, and then Tom, I'd love you to chime in on this. So the two big complaints that I'm hearing from members of Congress when they go back to their district or their state, the two Democrat attacks are, number one, tax cuts for the rich, and number two, pregnant women are going to lose their health care and rural hospitals will have to close down. So, Tom, why don't you take on the first one? Is this a tax cut for the rich?
Well, as you well know, the lowest tax bracket was reduced from 12 to 10. You helped write that bill. There's 100% of the taxpayers in 2018 paid less taxes. Their rate was lower than in 2016.
Right.
It is a bill that cuts everybody's taxes or takes them off the rolls completely. Beyond that, of course, the most important thing in history for anybody who is trying to climb the ladder of economics is economic growth above 3%.
Right.
If it's below 2%, not only does it run up deficits, but the economy's not expanding enough to draw labor wages up and opportunity. And so the more money we keep in the private sector, the better the middle class and those less fortunate do. The stagnant economy of the Eurozone, which for the last 30 years has had total economic growth about 0.5%, and youth unemployment in Spain in 2013 hit 55%, is because there's no expanding economy. That's the most important thing.
Great point. So, by the way, folks, this is the More Money Show on WABC, and that was Tom DelBaccaro, who's a political mind extraordinaire, and John McLaughlin, of course, is one of the top pollsters in the country. So, John McLaughlin, is the attack that this is a tax cut for the rich, is that working for the Democrats?
No, because people suspect their taxes are going to go up. When you tell them that their taxes will increase, when you tell them the Trump tax cuts will lapse, and we fought this out in the 7 battleground states last year in the campaign when Harris said she was for cutting taxes, but she wanted to, get rid of the Trump tax cuts. Well, that meant and again, we take the facts from your letters, your newsletters. 91% of all Americans would pay more taxes. In fact, when you in their chamber poll, when we told them 26 million American employers, job creators would see their tax rate increased to over 43%, which is 20% 2 times higher than what the businesses face in China. 79% support the tax cuts. Or when you tell them the tax increase on the average family of 4 would equal 9 weeks worth of groceries, 79%. Wow. Right. So people don't want their taxes to go up. Yep, this is a tax cut, as Tom said, and you've said. You design this tax cut. It's a tax cut that benefits everybody, and their real wages go up. The economy grows. It's a pro-growth tax cut. That's why President Trump supports it. That's what it's going to be, his landmark achievement. And all the other things you're talking about that America wants to do, just like Ronald Reagan, when he had a strong economy, he could face down the Soviets, and communism collapsed. The Soviet Empire collapsed.
Yep.
All our enemies right now, if America has a strong economy, they'll be afraid of us. If, on the other hand, if you have this tax increase, we won't have a recession. Steve Forbes tells me we'll have a depression.
It could be very bad. So,
yes.
So, John, the other attack line, and I'd like you to address this one, because I actually went on CNN the other night. I normally do Fox News, but occasionally I'll go on CNN just to sort of hear what the other side is saying. And, it was an hour-long program. They attacked me the entire hour. It was all about Republicans are taking away your Medicaid, and, we're going to shut down hospitals across the country. And I thought, well, we're not really doing that. All this bill really does is basically say, if you're not eligible under the rules of Medicaid, you don't get it. And most of the people there are a lot of people who are violating those rules, but many of them are illegal immigrants. And look, I'm pro-immigrant, but we can't have illegal immigrants coming to the country, I don't think, and then getting free health care on the taxpayer's dime. What does the public think about this issue?
Well, I read you the national numbers, and that was for our national April survey. But in the 35 battleground districts, 2/3 of the voters, 68 to 23, support a federal law that stops states from giving taxpayer money to Medicaid benefits to illegal immigrants.
Yeah, but we're doing that now. We are doing that now, John.
Yeah, that's in the bill. But the interesting part is the work requirement in the battleground districts, 79 to 16, they support requiring able-bodied adults to work or attend school. By the way, isn't it immoral for that people and Americans who are working, who can't afford their own food, their rent, their utilities, their health care, why are they paying for the health care of people that choose not to work?
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Hey, we're running out of time. And by the way, I'm going to pay you guys overtime because I promised you to only keep you on for about 15 minutes. And we've been doing a good half hour because it's been a fascinating conversation. So back to you, Tom DelBaccaro. You hail from the great state of California, or should I say the once great state of California. The governor there, Gavin Newsom, wants everybody to be forced to buy an electric vehicle. How's that going over?
It's not, but I want to say really quick, the biggest threat to Medicaid, Social Security, and Medicare is weak economic growth that doesn't employ enough people to bring in the revenues for those programs. Mm-hmm. California is a disaster because there's so many regulations, including this EV thing, that it's lost almost 200,000 private sector jobs in the last 2 years. And so they're getting tired of Newsom. That's why he's pivoting away. His approval ratings in the 40s. He's not fighting for what matters to everyday people's lives, which is where the Democrat Party is. They're fighting these battles over Princeton and Harvard, but that isn't what's important to people's lives, and that's why Trump's a success, because that's his brand.
So you know Gavin Newsom very well because you've been in politics in California for a long time, and I want to ask this question of both of you because it is a serious question. There was, I think it was Kimberly Strassel from the Wall Street Journal had a column last week. I think it was Kimberly, but whoever it was saying, "Hey, the guy who could be the next president could be Gavin Newsom if he were to pivot to the middle, sort of the way that Bill Clinton did successfully in 1992, and he could run as a centrist Democrat and take out the Republicans." But Tom, is he? First of all, I mean, I find that hard to believe since he's got a governing record in California. It's hardly centrist. But how seriously do you take Gavin Newsom as a Democratic presidential candidate?
If you remember, I think it was the Huckabee dinner for Prosperity, Unleash Prosperity Committee.
Yeah.
I warned about Gavin Newsom and his ambition.
You did.
He does have a horrible record, but remember, for the Democrats, it's not what you do; it's what you say. And so he's got a great chance in a field of 25 to be their nominee. His record's horrible. But that's why the Republicans need to get their act together and produce results, because voters, they put in the Labour Party in England, not because the Labour Party does good things, but because conservatives didn't. And that's a warning for Republicans. So
what do you say about that, John?
Well, having polled out there for Arnold in the recall and then in the subsequent reelection, I mean, recall is a great thing, and they almost got Gavin Newsom last time, but there's not enough rejection among the Democrats, but there may be now. So I think, I mean, California's got to save itself right now, but Newsom running for president, I think there'll be some other Democrat, because they need new faces and new ideas, and the worst part is there's a faction in that party that's going left. And in our last national poll, we still had Harris in the primary seat. It was like she had about 30%, but AOC had 8%.
So, we got literally 1 minute left. So closing comments for both of you. Tom and John, can we get this tax bill done potentially by 4th of July? And how important will it be for the country?
I say it's 50-50 by July. Republicans need to realize if they don't pass it, they lose. And it's that simple. And it takes time for the economics to work out. But I think it'll be September.
John?
It's critical we get it done before July. I mean, this is – in 2002, we had a growing economy after 9/11. But George W. Bush had a tax cut, and we picked up 2 Senate seats and 8 House seats.
You got it.
If we don't have a growing economy, it won't look good in the midterms. We need it
Well done, John McLaughlin. Well done, Tom DelBaccaro. This is the More Money Show. We'll be right back.
Talk Radio 77, WABC.